everyone. Welcome to today's live stream. We'll be talking about Beat the Sunday Binge, live strategies to stop overeating and start fresh. I thought I'd put this live stream together because I remember when I was in the throes of my eating disorder, Sunday was a really challenging time. And I felt very lonely and I felt very overwhelmed. And so naturally, I turned to a coping mechanism. And my coping mechanism of choice was abusing food. So I wanted to provide some strategies for people who also are having trouble with food. And one of the questions I most often get is, how do I stop overeating? Have any of you ever experienced that problem too? If you have any particular questions about food issues, please feel free to leave them in the comments and I would be more than happy to answer them. But I want to address why we overeat. Now, it's a complex thing, but if you find that you have already had sufficient nourishment, but yet you're not able to stop eating, there are some strategies that you can use to break out of that rut, so to speak. So the main thing I find helpful with my clients is that we work to get back into the body. Because so many people who are struggling with food and body abuse, they feel like they're having like an out-of-body experience. It feels almost like you're watching yourself do a behavior that you really don't want to be doing, but for some reason there's a disconnect and you feel powerless to stop it. So what I find most helpful is to help people get in tune with their bodies again. And the simplest way I know how to do this is to find your pulse. You can find it next on your neck. You can find it on your wrist. And some people start to panic at this point and they think, wait, I can't feel it. I can't feel it. I don't have a pulse. And I'm like, yep, you've got a pulse. Don't worry. Just keep waiting. Sometimes you want to have a light touch. People will kind of jam into there and try to feel it. You just want a light touch and you'll start to feel that slow beating. Or you can put a light touch here under your jawline and kind of close to your neck and feel that. And the thing that I love about teaching people to find their pulse is, one, you can do it anywhere. As I've said in other posts before, I often do it at family gatherings for holidays. When you're just feeling a little overwhelmed and you need to get back inside your body, you just put your hands in your lap and you just feel for that pulse. And it gives you something to focus your energy on. But so in this situation where if you're having a hard time overeating, getting in touch with your body again is very powerful because it shifts your focus. It gives your mind something else to focus on. And the other cool thing that I love is that it's a reminder that your body is taking care of you. So many people that have problems with food and body feel betrayed by their bodies and they think, what is going on here? Why is this happening? Like, I don't want to be doing this bad behavior. So take a moment and get in touch with your body by finding your pulse. Another reason why people overeat is sometimes your body is lacking the nourishment it needs. So in terms of food, I like to remind people to make sure you're incorporating fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, complex carbohydrates, and proteins into your meal. Now, this is not a diet prescription. What it is by having those things in your meals, it provides the body with the slow burning energy it needs to have a sustained energy level, and it provides your body with the nutrients it needs. Because occasionally your body will be like craving a certain nutrient and it'll get confused and try to eat it, achieve it by eating things that it doesn't necessarily need. And no food should be off limits. So that's one that's a little bit tough to hear for people, but no food should be off limits. It's just a matter of adding in the fresh vegetables, fresh fruits, complex carbohydrates, and proteins so that you got a good foundation for your body to get what it needs and not start seeking it through less valuable foods, let's say. But please post some comments in the box, and I'd be more than happy to answer your particular questions about food and overeating. But the other thing about overeating that people often wonder is, okay, so I've overeaten, now what? And the key thing when you've overeaten is to just go about your life. The worst thing you can do when you have overeaten is to then restrict or try to compensate through overexercising, undereating. You know, there's various types of restricting and people trying to make up for what they've eaten. But when you do things like that, your body thinks, holy crap, what's going on? Well, we better hoard all this food we just ate. So you don't want your body to go into that mode. You want to establish respect with your body so that it trusts that you're going to feed it again. Because when it doesn't trust that you're going to feed it again, like I said, it starts to hoard what you've given it. And when your body trusts you, it takes what it needs and it dumps the rest, like literally. So many people have a misconception that whatever you eat will stay in your body forever. Like, oh, terrible, cringy comments that I've heard people say, like, a minute on the lips, a lifetime on the hips. Ugh, kill me. No, that's not true. Your body is super smart and it just takes what it needs, dumps the rest. Because you know what? Your body wants you to be active. It wants you out there doing stuff, socializing, like living life, because that's what's best for its survival. It's not designed to retain food and retain, because that would be detrimental to your health, and your body wants you to be healthy. So I wanted to do this Instagram live on Sunday at 5 because that is the time when most people really start to go into the weeds and feel overwhelmed by the weekend. And so I wanted to give you some pointers on how to not go down that road. So let's talk about some things that you can do to prevent overeating or abusing food this evening. What I like to do is establish a plan. And even though it's 5 o'clock, I even recommend people start their plans at 3 p.m. because I found that that's when things just start to, like, you've hit the highlight of the day, you've gotten all your things done, you're going, and then it's like 3 p.m. and you're like, oh, and then it's just kind of a bit of a crash. So here we are at 5. Let's think about, okay, what time do you want to go to bed tonight for your sleep needs? Are you a night owl? Are you a morning person? What time do you have to go to bed so that you get your, I'm a solid 8 kind of gal? Like, 8 to 9? Yes. What are your needs? So looking back, it's in terms of when you have to wake up on Monday, what time do you want to go to bed tonight? And then an hour back from that bedtime, that's when you're going to start to shut stuff down. You're going to start turning off the screens, getting your face washed, pajamas, all that. And then before that, see, we're working backwards. Before that, you're going to want to make sure that you've had a healthy meal, or meals, depending on how long you stay up. So again, what that means is you want to have a fresh fruit or a vegetable. You want to have a complex carbohydrate, and you want to have a protein. And then add that to whatever else you're eating. I don't recommend taking things out because that creates a feeling of deprivation. And it's more about adding the healthy stuff in. And think of it like medicine, because basically it is. Getting the healthy nutrients that your body needs is like medicine for it. Another thing that you want to do in terms of planning your meal is having enough water. You don't want to drink too much water before bed, but like a glass of water with your meal, and 5 o'clock now, and you go to bed at 9, 10, then maybe a glass or two of water, because your body needs water to function. It like literally relies on it for all the neurochemical processes. And so make sure you're hydrated. And that's actually something that can trigger binging when you're thirsty. Those signals in the body can get mixed up. And it's important to stay hydrated so that you're understanding what your body's signals are. And that's what recovering from food and body abuse is all about, because many of us are really disconnected from how our bodies work and the signals that our body is giving us. And so any kind of discomfort, any kind of trigger, it just creates this uncomfortable need to numb. And for people with food and body issues, it's through food and body abuse that we choose to numb. So you're going to have your glass of water, or you're going to have make sure you stay hydrated for your dinner. And I want to talk about overeating. People often ask, well, like, how much is overeating? Now, unfortunately, we live in a society that has a ridiculously low expectation for what we need to eat. Although people tend to say that Americans have problems overeating, I would argue the problem we have is that we undereat. Now, let me explain. We are told that a serving size that is quite low in calories should be sufficient to sustain us for all of the physical, mental, social activities that we will be doing until the next meal. And often that's not enough food. Similarly, there's this craze about intermittent fasting. And yes, I support the idea of having 3 to 5 hours between meals so that you can live life. Some of these, the length of time for this fasting is just not healthy for your body. So the super low caloric amount for portion sizes, as well as the extended amounts of intermittent fasting, have created people who are just not eating enough. And so naturally, your body, it gets voraciously hungry. And so that when you finally do eat something, it's like, and you eat way more than you would normally if your body was trusted you that you were going to feed it again. So it's important to have enough food at each meal. In my experience, I have found that enough food is 1 to 2 fist sizes of each of those components I've already mentioned. So 1 to 2 fist sizes of protein, 1 to 2 fist sizes of complex carbohydrate, 1 to 2 fist sizes of a fresh fruit or fresh vegetable. And in there somewhere is fat, because our bodies need fats too. Our bodies were not designed to completely cut out whole groups of macronutrients. They just weren't. And so what I've found is that people are under eating at their meals, which is causing that rebound effect where they overeat. And if you're an active person, you're going to be more on the 2 fist sized portion. And if you, whatever else you want to eat, if you want to, I mean, I don't like to name foods because I don't like to trigger people. But if you want to add in whatever your favorite food of choice is, go for it. And that reminds me of something interesting. So I know we have a whole bunch of different food and body issues here. But right for a second, I want to address the binging and overeating side of things. And that just reminds me, please feel free to put a comment and ask a question if you're curious about anything in particular. And I will be happy to address it. But so if you think about your binge foods, if you're overeating, I bet you that there might be foods in there that you don't really like. And they just are something familiar and something predictable that have become a go-to for coping. And I often suggest that people who have a certain binge food or something that like they feel guilty about eating, I recommend they eat it every day. Like for real, eat it every day. I'm not talking about like a teeny tiny french fries. No, that's not fun. That's the worst. Like just eat a regular sized amount of whatever you want and do it every day. And you may find that you're like, oh, I don't even really like this. I remember, like, personal story. I remember going to the dollar store to get my binge food because, you know, I had financial issues at the time. And, you know, I'd had financial issues growing up too. And so there's this weird juxtaposition of financial issues and food and having lots of food making me feel like wealthy. I know, crazy. But so I would go to the dollar store and stock up on various gross, expired, stale, barely still within their expiration date type of foods. And I realized that I didn't even really like them. And I look back on them and I was just like, what was I doing? And a lot of times, the key thing that I have found with disordered eating behaviors and disordered body behaviors is that it's a way to burn off energy. So when I was binging on those foods, it was a way to just calm me down because the chewing and the swallowing, it made me tired. And so it was almost like a weighted vest with, sorry, my printer's going off. I'm like, what is going on with the printer? Wait, sorry. That's my daughter's. I'm just gonna throw that out there. So It was a way to calm me down. And so that's why I always say to people that eating disorders are genius coping mechanisms because they're easily accessible, they're legal, they're private, they're relatively inexpensive, and they do what they're designed to do. It calms you down. But there comes a point in your life where it's not helpful and it is interfering with your life, and you start to get that niggling feeling that there's something more out there for you and that you deserve to use your mind for better things. And that's what I want to say makes my program so great, but I don't want to make this about me. Really, truly, this is about helping you guys tonight. Please send me your questions if there's anything particular you're struggling with. But have you ever noticed that when you're on a diet or whether you're off a diet, that you're equally obsessed about food and body? We want to get rid of that. Like, I am not suggesting a new way to eat or a new way to exercise so that you can obsess about that. What I am suggesting and want to help you do is learn how to put that down so that you can live your life and explore what is of interest to you. So, what I recommend in terms of preventing a binge and pulling out of a binge or after a binge is learn a little bit about yourself. And what I mean by that is, okay, we already talked about, okay, what bedtime do you like? And what kind of foods do you like? What's your favorite season? I've worked with people that don't even know what their favorite color is because they always consider what their mom would like. And that may sound crazy, but to those of you who know, yeah, I was the same way. We often, through our food abuse, body abuse, we use that as a way to push down who we are because we're either scared of who we are or we feel like there's not room for us in our environment if we truly are who we are, or we don't want to make somebody else angry, or we don't realize that we can change our minds. I think that's one of the most freeing things is that life is fluid and we are allowed to change our minds in terms of what we like, what we don't like, who we don't like. These things are fluid and they should be fluid. And yes, you may find that you have your fundamental values, and I encourage exploring what that means for you too, but be open to exploring who you are and what you enjoy and what makes you feel good. And it seems a bit played out, but really curating what you are exposed to in your social media and in your streaming, in the people that you spend time with. It's important to consider that and unsubscribe from things that just make you feel ugh afterwards. But, let's look at it like I was talking about the food. Sometimes it's better to add something in rather than take it away. So you can also look at it from a standpoint of, okay, let's think about what you're interested in. How can we add that in to what you're exposed to. Like, do you think origami is cool? Awesome. Why don't you follow somebody who's an expert in origami? Do cute animals lift you up? I mean, I'm not sure who they don't lift up because they're freaking awesome. Like, subscribe to some cute animal videos and get that little like dopamine high. And various things. If there's somebody who, I think about this a lot, I've got kids, and so there are parents that I've met that are friends, but I don't see them very often, but I really genuinely like them. Or somebody from high school that I genuinely like, I don't stay in touch with very much, or an old family friend. Like, reach out to those people that you just genuinely like. Because unfortunately, even though we're all like super connected, we're still not that connected because we get so busy and we forget to reach out and say, hey, I'm thinking about you. And that goes a longer way than just a heart emoji on a post. So reach out to some people that you like. Start following some social media platforms that are uplifting and make you smile. And you'll find that when you start having these positive sensory experiences in your life, it calms you down and it starts to push out the negative sensory experiences. And I mean, ideally you would unsubscribe from the things that are really negative, but I know that can be hard sometimes and you might not be ready. So let's do a little activity. This is an activity I really like to do with people who are just starting to figure out having a better relationship with food, because it can be really uncomfortable at first. There's so much information coming at you all the time about what you should be eating, how you should be exercising, what supplements you should be taking. It's just coming at you so fast. And because it's a multi-trillion-dollar industry, people make a lot of money off of shoving this stuff in your face. But it's important to take those moments to connect with yourself. So remember, we did the pulse, love the pulse. Here's another one. I want you to clasp your hands together like this. Now take a look and see which pointer finger is on top. And then switch which pointer finger is on top and clasp your hands again. If you're like me, that feels pretty weird. Okay, try it again, back to the way you first were inclined to do it. And switch which finger's on top to try my way of doing it. They're both clasped hands, but it just feels weird because it's not what you're used to. And I love this activity because, one, it gets you to focus on your body and really tune in with what's going on. But two, it's such an excellent reminder that there are other ways of doing things, and they're probably just as effective. And it's going to feel uncomfortable at first, but all change is uncomfortable at first. So why not give it a try this way? Because your way hasn't been working. So why don't you try my way? Because I know it works. Because I've been studying eating disorder recovery for 25 years. I've been working with clients for 10 years. And nothing works as well as helping you to discover who you are, what your unique interests are, and what your unique body needs. So for instance, there are there are two big types of people. There are people that are sensory seeking And there are people who are sensory avoiding. And then somewhere in the middle, it's like a spectrum. So sensory seeking people are, for instance, people who love loud noises. They love like busyness. Concerts are their jam. They, sensory, like big flavors, big stuff. And then there are people who are more sensory avoiding, where they get overwhelmed with crowds. A night at home by themselves is a great night. And, you know, Vanilla's great. And then there's people along the middle there. And you know what? You'll find that like sometimes you're more in the extroverted side and the sensory seeking side, and sometimes you're more in the introverted sensory avoiding side. And that's a beautiful thing. But it's also good to just know what your preferences are, because when you know your preferences, then you can honor those. And it kind of gives you a foundation or a rock where you can be like, okay, this is me. And this is okay. And by discovering your unique interests and needs and preferences, you'll also realize that there's tons of people out there just like you. And because food and body abuse can be such a lonely problem, it is really freeing and validating when you start to identify who you are and are confident in who you are, and you realize your tribe is out there and that you're not the only one. And that reminds me, I'm going to take a sip of water first. Okay. That reminds me, feel free to leave your questions if you would like me to answer your question. But that reminds me that if you take the time to connect with your body and honor what your body needs, you're establishing that relationship again. Remember how we were talking about the trust that you're trying to establish with your body, that you'll feed it so that it doesn't hoard food? You're also establishing trust with your body that you'll take care of it. And you can show your body little gestures, caring gestures throughout the day. Things like brushing your teeth for 2 minutes morning and night, flossing your teeth, bringing sunglasses when you go outside so that it's not too jarring for your eyes, wearing clothes that fit. Do you have a pair of socks with a hole in it and your toe keeps poking out and it's annoying? Take that annoying thing out, like throw it away so that your body doesn't feel constantly stressed, and it starts to know that you're going to take care of it. And by feeding it regularly, your body knows that you're going to take care of it. And by drinking enough water regularly, your body knows you're going to take care of it. And even silly things like, if you have to go to the bathroom, do you hold it all day, or do you stop and, take time to go to the bathroom? Those little gestures of self-care can go such a long way in reconnecting with your body. Because unfortunately, so many of us have these sensory systems that are just so dialed up. They're so ratcheted up high because we're constantly being bombarded by sensory input and overwhelm. And if we can start to take those little steps to decrease the amount of stressors we're exposing our body to, our body can start to turn down the volume, and we can start listening to things like, are we hungry? Are we full? Because those sensations already exist in the body, It's just the wires are getting crossed because there's so much going on all day, every day. And there's so much disconnect with what our bodies need and who we are as individuals. So I can't state enough how important the reconnection piece is in putting down food and body abuse. So what I recommend when you are in the midst of overeating and you are in the midst of a binge cycle, we've got to hit the reset button because you're in this groove. I mean, have you noticed the phenomenon of sweet and salty? It's pretty neat, actually. It's like in terms of neurologically, but I'm also like a body nerd. Your body will oscillate between sweet and salty in order to keep the binge going, because your taste buds after a certain point stop tasting the sweet. And so if you switch over to salty, then your taste buds get another kick of stimulation. And then after a while, you won't be able to taste the salty. And then you'll switch over to sweet. And then you get another kick of stimulation. And so it becomes this, it's a bit of like a sensory modulation thing that your body does as a coping mechanism to distract it from whatever's really bothering it. Because, we've all been there where you're like, I can't possibly still be hungry. Like, it just would not make sense. So, but sometimes our bodies just keep going and going and going and going and going and going because it can. We're just coping. And it's a really convenient coping mechanism. But when you know the tricks of how to put it down, the tricks being setting up for success by getting enough sleep, setting up for success by getting enough food at each meal, setting up for success by getting in touch with what your body needs in terms of, are you sensory seeking, or what time do you like to go to bed? What things are unique to you, knowing yourself? And a fun thing you can do instead of binging is go online and take a personality test. That's a really fun way to figure out your preferences. I think there's one that's free called 16personalities.com. And you don't get the full profile with that one, but you get enough that you're like, yeah, I can see that. And it's just kind of validating, because then it's a way to kind of label it. And like I said, it doesn't have to be set in stone, and, you might change, and I encourage being open-minded, but it's just sort of a fun way to get to know yourself a little bit better. And the whole fact that there's whole categories about it means you're not the only one. For years, I was embarrassed that I like to go to bed early, and I still am to a certain degree. Luckily, my friends understand that about me now, but I don't like to stay up late. I just don't, because I wake up early, and it's just not for me. But by honoring and celebrating who we are, that is where the magic happens. That is when we don't need coping mechanisms as much. And when we start to honor and celebrate who we are, we can make goals accordingly. And we're psyched to show up for life. And we're psyched to choose what is right for our body and what allows us to be physically, socially, and mentally active. And that's what it's all about. And this is when you are in touch with who you are and honoring, and you know how your body works, and you are tuning into how your body works, you won't want to do the negative self-harm behaviors. And this isn't about like, I don't know if I want to go there. I was going to talk about the body positivity movement, but that's a very controversial thing. So I don't think I will address that. But if you want me to address that, please let me know in the comments. I would be happy to share my thoughts on it, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it too. But what I want to give you a couple more tips. Let's do a couple more tips. Okay, so you're in a binge, you're overeating. How do I stop this? One way I recommend is taking a pause if you can. I know it's hard to pull out. I know pull out of the binge. I know that's hard. If you can, wash your hands. Even better, wash your face. Even better, take a shower. If you can't wash your face or take a shower, at the very least, wash your hands, because water is really, really powerful in terms of helping to shift your brain focus. Because remember, it's like you're caught in that loop when you're in a binge, and by exposing your body to water, that creates a different sensory path that kind of just breaks the loop that you were in with the food. So you'll think about like your brain will be acknowledging the temperature of the water and the feel of the water, and if you're woo-woo, which to a certain degree I am, I imagine like all the stress being washed off and all the bad juju being washed off. Another great tip that I suggest is if you have a challenging time of day that you tend to binge or overeat, set an alarm in another room for that. So for instance, like set your bedroom clock for whatever it is. Is it 7 p.m.? Set the alarm and you'll hear it go off, and you will be forced to break up what you're doing mechanically, robotically, and you'll have to get up and go turn off the alarm. So this is all about creating little moments of pause that I call the power in the pause. Little moments of pause where you can have a beat to think, what do I want to do? And if you want to keep going, keep going. But you'll be able to, as you practice this, you will be able to make those choices from a place of empowerment rather than reaction. So we're just trying to lengthen that time from trigger to reaction so that you can have a pause in there and think, what do I want to do? And the key is just to get in touch with your body and yourself and to honor those things along with eating enough food. So let's see. So there's water, there's the alarm. Another one I like is belly breathing. That's one that's kind of common, and people might be sick of hearing that one. But if you breathe in and let your belly expand, and exhale and let it contract. If you inhale for a count of 5 and exhale for a count of 5, and you do that 3 times, then you've had like a 30-second breath meditation. And it's just a really quick way to reset your brain and your body and your mind. So another thing I like to recommend with overeating and binging and that kind of thing is try not to eat too much chocolate close to bedtime, because that will keep you up, and you know, it will affect your sleep, and then that just becomes something that carries into the week. And you want to, it becomes this snowball effect where, you know, you binged, you stayed up too late, or you're dehydrated, you know, can't sleep well, and then or you're hopped up on chocolate or whatever, you can't sleep well, and then, you know, you're just starting off the week trying to catch up. So being mindful of avoiding things with caffeine in it when you're binging on them, close to bedtime. And then a really important thing to consider when you're overeating is the next day. As I said before, society tells us, the trillion-dollar diet and exercise industry tells us to restrict, restrict, restrict the next day, and don't do it. Eat breakfast, a regular, healthy breakfast. Do what I said before about incorporating protein, whole, complex carbohydrate, and a fruit or a vegetable, in addition to whatever else you want to eat. But make sure you have that good foundation so that your body's like, oh, I don't really need all that stuff that they ate last night. I'm going to go ahead and dump it. Because if you try to then starve yourself for, what are some of these things? They're like 13 hours during the day. No, eat your breakfast about within 2 hours of waking up. But get that food in you so that you have that, so your body can trust you and you have energy to live your life. And, you know, that's the key. I also want to touch upon healthy stressors. So remember how I was talking about how, like, the chewing, swallowing, and the obsession around doing the bad food behaviors and getting the bad food behaviors, it's exhausting. And so so your body is a drama queen. It loves drama and it needs daily stress. Like, we were designed to withstand stress, designed to withstand freezing cold winters, being chased by tigers, you know, all that stuff. So your body needs daily stress. And if it doesn't get it in the form of healthy stress, it will create stress by starting fights with loved ones, by doing bad food behaviors, by, you know, you name it. Any of the bad stressors, that's just your body trying to burn off some of that energy. So what I recommend is that we include healthy stressors in every day. So those things are things like chores, a little bit of exercise, doing something to learn, expand your mind, and helping others. Now, I'm not talking about doing these for hours at a time. Don't worry. I'm just saying, you know, sprinkle like 15 minutes to an hour in your day for each. And what you will find is that by the nature, like exercise, chores, learning, helping others, let's be honest, we don't always want to do those things. And that's what makes them stressful, because we don't want to do them. So when you do them anyways, and, you know, those things are also like a little bit exhausting, you know, you get that healthy stress, you get the benefit of the stress relief, the chemicals being released from the healthy stress. And you also reap the benefit of those positive, healthy stressors. And you will find that as you explore what types of healthy stressors you enjoy, you will also find that you are connecting more with yourself. So, what type of exercise do you enjoy? You don't have to do somebody's workout that they're recommending if that's not your jam. And um, what what are you interested in learning more about? Like I said, do you want to learn more about origami? Do you want to learn more about the ruins of Mexico? Or you get what I'm trying to say. Um, so you want to expose yourself to those healthy stressors so that your body can burn off that excess energy that it has. It can get the healthy stress relieving chemical high. And you reap the benefit of accomplishing those things. Like your laundry got folded, you were kind to your neighbor, you learned how to what that plant was in your yard. These things will help you to create a life beyond food and body. That is the whole goal, is so that you can live life not obsessed with food and body. And food will return to its rightful place as fuel for living and enjoying life. Sure, you can still enjoy food, yes, but it's not the be all and end all. It's not what defines you. It's not what you think about all the time. Because honestly, we need your brains and minds for greater things. You are here to do something great. And you're just sidetracked right now with the overeating and the food abuse and the binging. You're going to get that under control. And then it's going to be amazing what you can accomplish and contribute to the world and other people. And I'm so grateful that you took the time to come to my IG Live. And please, if you have any questions that I did not address today, please feel free to send them to me. As you can tell, helping people love their bodies is my jam. So I would be honored to help you. And I'm wishing you a beautiful Sunday. And I am wishing you an evening full of kindness to your body, self-care, and I wish that you wake up Monday morning refreshed and knowing how incredible you are. See you next time.